Welcome to the Brasileiro podcast, and today I have a special guest. He wants to remain anonymous, I guess. Big soccer moderator Mengao 86. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
So I know you saw the same game I had to sit through yesterday. For me, it was a little bit of improvement because I liked the first half. There's a lot of chances, but to me, I guess start with this. Did it feel like a loss to you? Because losing it, I felt like it was a loss because drawing with England's like a loss to me, considering they went and bunkered in a 4-5-1 the whole game, probably about 10 shots on goal the first half. So that's why I feel like it's a loss.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, we created a ton of chances. I really liked Oscar. Um, he showed nice movement. They said he was tired from the long season at Chelsea, but by rating his first half performance, I really didn't see that. A lot of people still critical about Neymar, but I thought he had a solid first half as well. Good movement on the left hand side. Really didn't get much support from Felipe Luis. Um, I thought he was actually one of the down spots for that first half. Then you had, Danny Alves. You don't want to get me started on Danny
Yeah,
Alves.
you might as well get started because I always have to stress this point that he brings nothing defensively, and I was done with him. Copa America against Paraguay. That's when I was done with him. But we got to keep continuing him, I guess. But could you break down his performance why you hated it?
Sure. I mean, defensively, he's just non-existent. There were several occasions in the first half where I actually saw him line up centrally in defense. I saw Thiago Silva. He was on the right-hand side. I saw David Luiz. He played on the right-hand side. For some reason, he keeps going in the middle, and then when he brings the ball up, he crosses the midfield line, and then he cuts inside and goes in front of the defensive midfielders, and he tries passing from that position when your right back ought to stick to the right flank, make overlapping runs with Hulk, who was isolated on the right hand side. One thing that Brazilian fullbacks are known for doing is they go to the byline. They go all the way to the byline and they cross. Danny Alves didn't do that once. I can't tell you when the last time I saw him do that. And,
Exactly.
and
And my whole problem with Danny Alves is, like you said, he's leaves the back four. It's just completely exposed. But I almost cringed once you broke down the tactics in the back. I didn't even notice Thiago Silva how far over he was, but that just came to me right now once you explained that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing Filipão must have made some sort of adjustments because in the second half I didn't see him going in the middle, but in the first half, especially early on, there was two, three occasions where I remember he was in the center of defense. I had no idea what he was doing, and he had one good play. I'll give him his credit for that one good cross that came into the box. Hart came out, made a nice save, and that cross came from deep, and that's where most of his crosses come from. But for the most part, his crosses were abysmal. He just adds nothing on both phases of the game. At this point, I really rate him as a midfielder. That's where he played
Yeah.
under Dunga. His best moments with the Seleção was as a midfielder. You may have remembered him from his goal against Argentina in 2007 in the Copa America. Also in the Confederations Cup, he had that free kick goal. I believe it was against South Africa. That's where his best moments came from midfield. If he's in the midfield, he doesn't have to track back as far, and it seems like he likes playing in the center of the park. I honestly don't know if he does that really at Barcelona as much, but
He,
from the
he
games I've seen,
he
it's
used to do
mostly.
it with Pep a lot, and but you're right. You're completely right about that. Now I know a player we have very different opinions on is Hawk. I liked his performance yesterday. I feel like he's able to link play together better than any forward we have, and that's including Neymar. And let me get to my criticism of Neymar. One thing I was unhappy about. I don't know about you because we both agree that his form has kind of fallen off this year. I'm not criticizing him or going down on him because we both know how bad Santos is. But my main problem is how weak is his shot. Honestly, he has one of the weaker shots I've ever seen. I don't know what's happened to his shot, but it's definitely off.
Yeah, I was actually kind of disappointed with the free kick he had. It was pretty weak. Went to Hart. The one shot that comes to mind that I really liked from him was that one where he cut inside, took on a center back, got by him, and tried to curl it past Hart, but went just slightly wide. Other than that, yeah, his shot's really been disappointing. Even in the Flamengo game, he got off a couple shots that really just didn't have enough behind them.
And what do you think of Hulk?
Hulk, I mean, his performance wasn't as bad as some of his previous performances. Really can't fault him for this game because he was really left isolated on that right hand side. The only time he really got involved is when Oscar would connect with him on that right hand side. Uh, I can't really recall if he really had any shots on goal. Did he really have any shots on goal?
He had a crazy back heel that almost went in, but that's pretty much the only shot he had on goal. And I was like you said, like I'm a Hulk guy, but I think he's better off the bench. Do you think Lucas Moura is still too green to start, or would you have started him right off the bat?
I would have given him the opportunity to start. I believe the only time he actually started with the Seleção was during the domestic cup that we have against Argentina when he was still with São Paulo, and I just wanted to see him with the normal group of players and see how he would perform. But I do still think that he's a bit green, and that's one of the reasons why I prefer the 4-4-2 with the diamond in the midfield. More balance. I think you have to find a spot for Hernanes because he's really the linchpin in the midfield. Very versatile. Can attack well, can pass well, can defend pretty well. Has a nice shot, as we saw on Sunday when he hit the post.
Yeah.
So I really think we need to find a spot for him.
Well, what would you? So, what would your midfield pairing be with him? Because I like Hernanes. I like the idea of him because, like you said, he's very versatile. And another thing, a person you compared his game, you said Cicero's a poor man's Hernanes. I like that, but that's off topic. But one thing I have to ask you then, what's your pairing in that midfield if you're gonna have Hernanes?
Well, the big mystery to me is the defensive midfield positions. Um, Really, we need to find a what we call, a first defensive midfield. In Brazil, they call, primeiro volante, and a lot of the options are really, either hurt or just not in good form. You had Lucas, who, was battling injury at Liverpool, and um, he really hasn't found his form yet. He's been doing okay, but not like he was prior to his injury. Sandro was coming on really well early in the season, and then he sustained a serious injury, and I don't think he came back. So we'll have to see what he does for next season. So I really don't know what to do about that first spot. I actually like is you know controversial as this may be. Actually like Felipe Melo there, but
Is he really going to help the ball movement? That's my main question to you. If you think he can help the ball movement, then I'm for it. I just question if he can help because I don't watch a lot of Turkish soccer, so I'm not updated on him.
his passing is very underrated. I think it's not amazing, but for a primero volante, it's pretty good. I'm sure you remember that pass that he had in the Netherlands game in the 2010 World Cup, when he thread in a through ball to Robinho, who scored our only goal. Um, but in that cup under Dunga, he actually played um, the second defensive midfielder spot. And one of the reasons he was actually able to play that well was his passing was just good enough to to link up play. So I think he's worth a shot, but I know a lot of people may be upset. I mean, just look at Julio Cesar when they brought him back. People still weren't too comfortable with him because of what happened in that Holland game. So
And we know that firsthand, the feeling of Julio Cesar, and he's actually been. I've really been impressed with him ever since he came back, considering his form was spotty for QPR, and how he's played with the Seleção so far. I really feel like he's won this position, even though we have good domestic goalkeepers. How would you rate? Who are your top three goalkeepers if you had to make a decision on the final squad right now?
well, initially, I wanted Julio to be on the squad just for his experience, even if he didn't start. Then you have the other two spots. I do admit that Cavalieri, his form isn't as good as it was last year. Um, and the thing about Jefferson, he really just doesn't amaze you. He doesn't make, the amazing save. The thing about him is he's just really consistent. He makes few mistakes, but he isn't gonna, bail you out with an amazing reflex save. So that's my issue with Jefferson. And somebody that actually got a lot of chances under Mono, and then he got hurt and he couldn't play in the Olympics, and then he was trying to find his form. I believe at the end of last season was your club's goalie, Rafael. I think he's a guy that you actually need to keep an eye on. I was very impressed with him in the Flamengo game, and I think he had a pretty solid Paulistão.
He,
So I
he,
think that's one guy that you want to keep an eye on. And I'd also say we'd want to still monitor Diego Alves, who did have a very good La Liga. I don't think Filipão gave him a shot yet. I think his last opportunity was when Mano was still around. But those are the goalies I'd like to work with.
and then I have to go to the position of doom for me. One of the most disappointing things I have on watching Brazil. I like Fred, and you can share your opinions about him after. But this is really depressing because it's pretty much down to Leandro Damião or Fred, and I don't feel like there's even anyone pushing those two unless you're going to go false nine, and we know your feeling about that. And really, with this team, a false nine probably wouldn't work, even though I would have liked to see it tried a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. The thing about Fred, he really isn't involved in the build up, at least with the seleção. I've seen him get involved a little more with Fluminense, but he has a nose for goal. I mean, you just look at his goal record with us. He may disappear from games, but he'll bag the goals. And Damião, he just really hasn't found his form that he showed when he first bursted onto the scene. Um, the positives about him is his hustle. He'll press the defenders. He'll help on defense. But when he receives the ball in the area, it's like he's lost. He doesn't know what to do with it. And this is a guy that I remember about 2 seasons ago when we still had Ronaldinho. Um, he showed a good amount of technical ability, and you're just wondering what happened to it. This guy scored a bicycle kick off of an amazing cross. It was perfect timing, a great bicycle kick against Flamengo to tie the game 2 seasons ago, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what happened to his technical skill. It's like he lost confidence.
Here's my last question before we move on to part two of the podcast. What was the biggest problem in the second half for you? Because for me, there's a problem with how soft this defense is. I just hate the fact that Brazil can be dominating a game at any time, and then this defense is so soft it can be taken out by one attack. I just feel like there's no cohesiveness at all, and there's nothing worse than getting sucker punched after dominating a team. So that was my main problem with the second half. Is there anything that stood out to you?
It was just a space in the midfield, especially between the defensive line and the midfield. Um, I know Filipão tried to put Hernanes there to help with the passing. But then when you put in Hernanes for Luis Gustavo, you have Paulinho playing out of position. I don't think Paulinho can play the first defensive midfield spot. He needs to be in the second midfield spot, and that's one of the reasons why I think we need a four-man midfield.
Not to cut you off, but shouldn't Philly Pound know that by now?
You would hope so, but obviously he has confidence in him playing the first spot. I'm not sure what he's seen in him, but Paulinho's best attribute is being a surprise element in attack. Um, he's a decent ball winner, but he likes playing in a slightly more advanced role, not as deep as the first defensive midfield spot. So I think that was one of the issues. And then you had David Luiz, who didn't close space down on Rooney's second goal. So I mean, you're wondering, is he going to give Dante, a shot to start?
Yeah,
Everybody wants Dante.
Well, what do you think about Dante? Do you think he's a clear upgrade over David Luiz?
Yeah, I mean he's experienced. He plays serious. He knows how to position himself well. I think he's one of the better center backs in the world. I mean, I think we're actually blessed. We have two of the best center backs in the world, but we just can't put them on the same field.
And that's one thing about Philly Pound. I hate just sometimes I feel like he's completely out of it, but I don't want to go on a bash Philly Pound rant. Real quick before we end this podcast, what are you looking towards for this France game later this week? Is there anything you expect to see Philly Pound tinker with? Is there anything you want? I know you want the old school Brazilian 4-4-2.
Well, I'd like to see us build on our first half performance against England and correct the mistakes that we made in the second half. I'd like to see Marcelo start. I'd like to see Donchi start. Um, Hernandez as well. I'd like to start as well, and also give Lucas a chance. I think we got to give some of these guys a chance to start and prove what they've got. Um, Luis Gustavo, I like him as a player, but it still bothers me that he's not a starter at his club. So, and then you have Fernando. I think he can be a very good player down the road, but I'm still not comfortable with actually starting him. So, with the defensive midfielders that he called up, I really don't feel too comfortable with either of those ones. So, I'm hoping he is looking for other choices. He said he was looking for players in England, in the Ukraine, and in Russia. So hopefully defensive midfielder, especially the first defensive midfielder, is one spot he's going to look for.